Okay, so prices are down quite substantially over the last year. Even the last like 4, 5, 6 months, prices are down quite a bit. That being said, there is finally some signs of life in the market, and that's what I'm covering today. So Stories just released this, basically saying Greater Vancouver real estate market continuing to see sales recovery. They even use the word recovery. They go on to say, after an extensive market downturn caused by economic conditions, there are promising signs that the real estate market is turning the corner, according to the latest statistics published by GVR. In July, the GVR region recorded a total of 2,286 home sales, which was 2% below the 2,333 recorded in July 2024 and 13.9% below the 10-year average of 2,656. However, last month's sales marks an improvement considering the significant gaps in recent months. May was 18.5% lower year over year, while June was 9.8% lower year over year. So you have July, which is only 2% below the last July, and then you have May, which is 18.5% below the last May, and you have June, which was 9.8% below the last June. So you can see from a year over year perspective, this July isn't as bad as June and May and so on and so forth. So the market is getting a little bit better. Now, I'm definitely not saying we are in a full-blown recovery. Prices are going to stop going down or anything like that, because the prices are likely going to keep going down. That being said, what you would typically want to see, what starts a recovery, the first sign of a recovery would be sales increasing, right? Because that's the only thing that's going to eat away at the glut of supply that we have. So the first thing you'd want to see in a recovery is going to be the sales, right? On the other side of the equation, last month saw 5,600 new listings come online, which is 0.8% higher than the 5,500 added in July 2024 and 12.4% higher than the 10-year average. So new listings was only 0.8% higher, but sales was still 2% below the last July. So you still have new listings outpacing sales, right? However, the rate of sales seems to be increasing quicker than the rate of new listings, right? Because you went down from being basically 9.8% to only being down 2%, and now new listings is only 0.8% higher for July, right? So you still have inventory outpacing or new listings outpacing the sales, but when you look at the trend, it actually looks like sales is increasing at a quicker rate than new listings, right? With that batch of new listings, the total amount of active listings in the GVR market is now up to 17,000, which is 20% higher than 14,000 this time last year and 40% higher than the 10-year average. So the same thing is happening in Toronto, but I want to talk about first, why are sales coming back? Well, the sales are coming back because the prices are way down, right? I mean, that's pretty easy to see that as the prices go down, we unlock more buyers. So this is where we're at right now, right? The prices are way down. Like I'm doing comparative market analysis now. And at the beginning of the year, I would tell a client what I thought their home was worth, and they really didn't like it. But now I tell them the price and they're like flabbergasted. They're like, what? Like, what do you mean that's where it's going to sell, right? The prices have come down quite a bit, right? That being said, as I feel like we've kind of we may have hit a turning point, because now the prices have come down. You've seen sales pick up. And as the prices continue to go down, we unlock more buyers with each percent, each 2% or whatever the prices go down. You'll have more buyers come back into the market. And we might actually see a point, maybe by spring of 2026, where the amount of sales coming into the market starts outpacing the new listings. Now, that being said, we have tons of supply we have to eat through. That will probably take a couple of years to get through it. But we may have hit a turning point, right? I said in one of my earlier videos that sales may have bottomed. And I've kind of been giving you guys some anecdotal evidence that sales may have bottomed. Now we're kind of seeing some actual data that might be the case. Now, I'm not saying sales aren't going to go lower into the back end of the year, because they are 100% going to go lower in the back end of the year. But when you compare each subsequent month to the same month last year, or you compare the rate at which the sales are happening month over month in comparison to the same month last year, just like we saw in the last article, I think you're going to find that sales could have very well bottomed in the spring. Okay. So this article, Toronto area realtors report most July home sales since 2021. After economic uncertainty brought on by a trade war with the U.S. quashed much of the rebound initially expected for the first half of 2025. Increased home sales in July are indicating that improved affordability may be reopening the door for a substantial number of GTA home hunters. After an unremarkable spring and early summer that saw GTA home sales and prices fall year over year each month while inventory grew to levels not seen in 25 years, the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board July data reveals sales ticked up on a seasonally adjusted basis month over month and were up 10.9% year over year. So Toronto, from a sales standpoint, is doing a lot better than us, right? We were down 2%. They're up 10% year over year. I also think that's because the prices there have fallen further. So this might be a future indicator of what's to come here if we continue to see the prices fall. This guy says improved affordability brought on about by lower home prices and borrowing costs is starting to translate into increased home sales. More relief is required, particularly where borrowing costs are concerned, but it's clear that a growing number of households are finding affordable options for home ownership. He says, despite a slight tightening of the market, however, home prices continue to fall in July, with the benchmark home price decreasing 5.4% year over year and the average selling price down 5.5%. The average selling price last month was $1,051,000. So I want to quickly show you guys this, just as something interesting I stumbled across last night. We look at the prices of Surrey. Surrey's down 7% year over year. It's officially below the low of January 2023 of $1,017,000. And now it's sitting at $1 million. So Surrey might actually go below $1 million, right? And 7% is a massive drop in real estate. Like in the stock market, 7% isn't too big of a deal. But in real estate, where everybody's leveraged 5x, 2x, 3x, even as high as 20x, 7% is a huge, huge drop as far as real estate goes. So these types of price drops, and again, this is the HPI. So the HPI tends to actually understate what's happening, but these huge drops are starting to unlock buyers. And like I said, we may have hit a turning point now where some buyers have started to creep in. And as the prices fall more, you see more buyers start to creep in, and then maybe you see sales continue to increase. And that kind of sparks a recovery. And I'm not saying the prices are going to go up. I'm not saying the prices aren't going to keep going down or the market's better. Listen, all I'm saying is that this is finally a positive piece of news, right? For months, my channel has basically just been everything negative that's happening. I would say this is the first real positive piece of news. Inventory is still outpacing the demand. But again, as the prices fall, you might see that dynamic switch in the coming months. And if you enjoyed this video, you can like and subscribe to the channel if you please, or if you want to chat with me about buying or selling real estate in the Fraser Valley, there's a link down in the description. Otherwise, I'm that Agent Kelly. I'm making moves to move you. Peace.